If someone was to ask me what my medium is as an artist, place is really my medium. As a young artist, I was trying to figure out what my vocabulary would be, and I really didn't want it to be about making big objects. I wanted to figure out a different way to make things and have them communicate.
In the sculpture class in particular, I was able to kind of formulate ideas or responses to things in a way that I didn't have access to in writing or in any other thing that I had tried doing.
Stripping things down to a kind of skeletal framework with some strange early pieces made with string and rope and canvas. As I was making those, I ended up putting them outdoors, and it was a way to engage the landscape, which was really interesting to me. For me, it was really about something being more intimate. I was really interested in the way you could begin to read the world around you in a different way. I started to meet a lot of young women who wanted to be artists, and we became very active in insisting that our work be taken seriously, that our work be looked at. And it's very difficult to be taken seriously at that time. It was no longer wanting to accept the status quo and really insisting that our voices be heard. It's not about a certain style that came out of the 70s. I think it's about this sense of a collective vision to imagine a future that is richer, that's more generous, that's more caring. And I think it's the thing that has stayed with me so strongly over these years, is that we can create our own circumstances. So here I am making these temporary projects that would be up for a few months and then taken down again, and had a chance to do this complex out on Long Island, perimeters, pavilions, decoys. It ended up being the project that most fully defines who I am to many people. I had imagined this idea of this underground structure that was like walking under the skin of the earth that you had just come across. The visceral quality of being able to go under the ground and into this darkened passage where there's a wall with openings into yet another dark space was a very mysterious project. I think New Yorkers think they're so separate from nature, that nature is out there someplace. And a place like the South Cove allows a reconnection with nature in a very intense way. It was a new way of having access to the waterfront. You really hear the water, you smell the water. If the tide is high, you'll get your feet wet. It'll splash through the walkway. Doing the South Cove solidified my idea that artists could have an impact, a very positive impact on the public realm. We could give people experiences that wouldn't be available to them otherwise. That physical engagement was really an important part of the work, and something that continues today with the work that we're doing. As I look back on the path that I've had, it seems very strange to me in a way. I've really transitioned into a different position. As an artist, I'm still engaged in coming up with the conceptual framing of these projects. So we came up with this idea of City as Living Laboratory, sustainability made tangible through the arts. Recently, we had a planning session to bring about 40 people together to talk about paths forward, trying to imagine not just my view of what would need to happen, but realizing the issues were so big, so broad, that we needed to have this collective approach. City as Living Lab is just so grateful, so thank you. Just really appreciate it. Artists have this ability to help people imagine something. Artists can give an experience that can create an engagement. So this is the Watermarks project in Milwaukee. I really wanted people to begin to look carefully at the water that runs off the streets and the impact that it has on the river. The idea was how we could set up a kind of call and response with the citizens. So we proposed lighting the stack, being able to use it as a beacon that signals whether there might be a chance of a sewage overflow. And if there's a chance of a sewage overflow, the stack lighting turns red, and that warns people not to use bathtubs, dishwashers, heavy uses of water. And in that way, everybody starts to be part of the green infrastructure of the city. When we had workshops with the community, we found out one of the biggest issues is with flooding.
In the Bronx, that severe flooding hit so quickly. Dozens of cars were trapped on the Bronx River Parkway as the water rose.
I see the car start floating, you know? The car just started floating and shut off.
Here we're looking over the area where the water from the pond goes directly into the sewer under Broadway. It starts here and then it crosses the park and ends up underneath the street of Broadway. This is an opportunity to solve the problem of the flooding by getting the extra water out of the sewer system and putting it in an alternative corridor and creating a park at the same time. At City's Living Lab, we've been orchestrating this idea of engaging artists in the development of this stream, especially artists from this neighborhood of the Bronx, to come up with ways to find this a place that they want to be, that is meaningful to them.
The vision that I really hold is that we have many artists in many communities working and engaging people in a very direct way. I think this totally goes back to those early years of feminism, of finding an alternative to singular structures. Networks are what it's all about.